Hello, this is Learn to Love Yourself or Serenity with Rosie. And today's topic is the first one in a new series of Overcoming Rejection and Building Confidence. And this is just one of 7. So today's topic of what I want to touch on, though, is why rejection hurts and why it's not about you. But first, I want to stop, take a deep breath, calm my energies, and I invite you to do the same, that we can have this conversation in peace and that you can understand. So, why does rejection hurt? We would have to break it down. You can literally, because there's so many themes of what rejection is and what is caused from it or what triggers it. So the first one that comes to mind is feeling unworthy. Some people don't feel like that they're good enough. And they feel like the reason they were rejected is because they weren't good enough. When in all reality, most of the time it doesn't have anything to do with you. It's the other person and their decision. And whether that's romantically, whether that's in relationships with friends or family, it's not saying that you're not enough. It's just that person needs something that you don't have, which, yes, that can seem like that means you're not enough, but you're delving into such a deep, deep water there, because what do they actually need is what you would have to ask to figure out that problem. But then you're questioning and going to the point where, do you even want to be what this person needs? Because you have to solve this problem and this person doesn't even know what they want, know what they need, how can you be that for them if they don't even know? And so you see where I'm going? Is it delves into a whole another problem of things that you'd be worrying yourself and stressing yourself and trying to conform or change to be something that you don't even know that you want to be. So it's very, very hard. And yes, I dealt with it. There was many instances in my life where I figured that was why I was treated differently than other people around me, is because somehow I must be different than them. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't worthy of the people who they didn't show me the same love they showed other people. And so any relationship of any kind, you can deal with this. But that's when you have to stop and tell yourself that you are worthy because you deserve better. And really, truly, it boils down to people don't appreciate what they don't respect. And therefore, if they don't know your value, how would they respect you? And so, would you even want it at that point? Would you even care? The next big one that comes to mind is fear of abandonment. And that is a big one for a lot of people. And I've even dealt with that at times, because you think, well, if I do everything they say, I won't be left by myself. But when in all reality, when you're conforming to other people, you're abandoning yourself to conform to their wishes. So in the end, you are abandoned anyway. And so it's really hard. And I get it. It's a very, very touchy subject. And it's very painful. And it takes a lot of healing to be able to find the peace and the joy and the love within yourself to conquer these. But that's what they are. They're just challenges in this learning to love yourself, learning to respect yourself, learning to appreciate yourself. All these are just little, as you say, little, almost like milestones of learning and growing. At least that's how I see them. The other one is shame. And some people get ashamed because they feel ashamed because the other person didn't choose them. But that does not mean that you're broken. That does not mean that there is anything wrong with you. I see this in relationships and like romantic relationships where people are like, well, but they didn't like me just because I wasn't. And it's like 99% of the time that has nothing to do with it. I mean, chemistry is such a little part in all of the whole thing. There's so many factors that come into play. And would you really want to be in a situation where they didn't appreciate you? Yes, then you wouldn't be left alone, but I've heard some people say they were the most lonely when they had people all around them, but they didn't understand them. And then we have the anger and resentment that people get from the rejection. And that is because like they're mad at themselves for believing that they would like them or that they would accept. So they're almost mad at themselves for trusting that this was going to all work out. The thing is everything good, everything worthwhile, everything worth having takes effort. And it's not just that one time everything's great. Life is a constant change. That's all we're granted is constant change. Therefore, no matter what's going on in your life, that's all you're guaranteed is change. And so if you find that person that's willing to evolve with you, willing to change with you, wouldn't that be so much better than being stuck in somewhere where this person doesn't really love you, doesn't really appreciate you, doesn't really care because they don't know how to love themselves, so how would they love you? You see how I'm reframing them to be different? Then you have your people that have the loss of identity because it's like, well, if this person rejects me, then who am I now? I don't even know who I am. And I can understand and appreciate why someone would feel this because, I mean, when I first left the church, actually kind of happened a while before that. But I thought, once I leave the church, who am I? I'm not the same person anymore. I'm no one that I've ever known before. And that can seem scary, the unknown. But in the same sense, it's also so freeing because, yes, you're shedding an old version of you, but you also get to find that newer version of you that's happier, that's more alive, that's more excited about life. And that is so worth it every time for the switch out. And, and then there's some people that they're just hopeless. They're just like, they have doubt in everything. Well, doesn't matter. Don't care. I don't want to talk to anyone. And in a way, you can't have all of your hopes resting on another person, regardless of who they are. You can't have all your hopes riding on them. You're here. Yes, good relationships are amazing. But if both people aren't giving in those relationships, someone's getting dragged down. Somebody's getting torn apart. Somebody is going to be unhappy. And don't let it be you. Because if two people are in a relationship and they're both building, that's the most beautiful thing in the whole world. And they're both happy. But all relationships take effort. learning, growing, nurturing it, just like a plant. If you plant a seed, you have to water it, you have to tend it, you have to make sure it gets enough sunlight, enough joy, enough happiness, sing to it, all the things to get this plant to grow. And it's no different with any relationship you have. They all take effort. They all take understanding. Nothing just is handed to you. That's not how life is. At least I've never experienced it. But then people go through the phase of emotional numbness, where they decide that everything and anything is way too risky because last time it didn't work. And so everything is just not going to work for me now because it didn't work last time. But you can't be stuck in that mentality, because in that mentality, you're only hurting yourself. Does that person who said no, are they feeling bad? Maybe, but I doubt it. And so you have to realize in yourself that it doesn't matter. You are enough as you are. Everything joyful, everything worthwhile in this world is worth having, and it's worth the sacrifice. So, but the reason rejection hurts so much is because I believe it's because we take it personally. Like we feel like it's an attack against us, against our personal self. And then so that being, rather than them, if we're fighting in a war, to put it in perspective, if you're fighting in a war and there's a whole bunch of other people, then that doesn't affect you directly. But if you feel like they rejected you somehow, it's like they singled you out and they're like, no, it's you. And so that's why it hurts. And most of the time, it can be from if you break it down, it can be from an inner child wound. And how many children have ever felt unworthy, as their parents made them feel like that they were a burden, or they think that they're going to be left alone and no one's going to care for them, or ashamed of needing things that they do, or anger and resentment. All these things it comes from a deeper wound, and that's why it hurts so bad. But it feels so personal. It feels like you're literally getting ripped apart. Like, because if you are no longer who you thought you were, who are you? And then you have to come to all of these whole new, come to Jesus moments is what I would call it, where you have to reanalyze your life. And it does hurt. But in the same sense, whenever I think of things hurting really lots, then I think, oh, it's almost like you're an egg. And I envision myself, I know it's maybe silly, but I envision myself as like an egg, and when the pain, it's actually just cracking me open to be something even better. And so that's just the way I like to think of it. But rather than, if you reframe it, think it is ripping you apart, think it's breaking you open for something better, something more amazing, something that you haven't even thought of yet. And so don't think that something's wrong with you, because a lot of times I've seen it, friends, family, on both sides, and most of the time it has nothing to do with the other person. It's just not the right circumstance. And so there's so much that goes into play. So all it is a reflection of someone else's choice. And that may or may not have anything to do with you. So you just have to reframe. If you change it and think, all like to reframe it, rather than feeling unworthy, think, well, what happened to me that made me feel unworthy? Or why do I feel like I'm going to be abandoned? Or why am I ashamed? Or why does this make me feel angry and resentful? Or why am I afraid of change? Why are my hopes so tied up in one person that I'm willing for them to ruin my life or think they did? Why would I give them that power? And in a way, it reminds me of when I was growing up. Then it was really a struggle. I was, I think, 16 or 17, and at the time, my parents were very angry at me because I supposedly had done all these things and was out every night with all these boys doing all these things. And I was just like, after months and months and months of dealing with this, I was just like, I was so over it. And I was talking to one of my brothers, and I says, I'm just done. I'm just, this is just so exhausting. They all believe I'm a bad person, and I do all these things, so I'm getting judged as if I did them. And he was like, so why would you want to prove them right? And I sat there and I was like, yeah, I wouldn't want to prove them right. And so you have to find that courage within yourself to realize that you don't want that choice, because there's so many better choices. And it's so worth it, even though it seems hard. But at some point you have to say, my story is not to be sad. My story is not to feel rejected. My story is not to be ashamed. I am worthy. I am amazing. I can do anything I believe I can, because you can. And believe it. And because every choice we make, you are writing the story. You are the one with the pen in your hand. So don't let petty arguments, cheap choices decide something that you're going to have to deal with forever. So I want to send love to all of you, and I hope that you can feel how amazing you are and how you are unstoppable if you only believe it, because you can accomplish anything. So, have a wonderful day.